I want to show you something amazing. Gordon Heath and Lee Payant were actors and musicians who met and fell in love in America and moved to France, where they opened a club called L'Abbaye. Their nightclub opened in 1949 and stayed in business for 27 years, closing after Lee Payant died of cancer in 1976. I found a record that Gordon Heath and Lee Payant produced themselves in Paris to celebrate the 10-year anniversary of L'Abbaye. These guys were truly extraordinary. They have a photo of the both of them together with a listing of every song. And there's so much work that has gone into this record. I haven't been able to find it on Spotify or iTunes or YouTube. So I'm getting a record player so I can hear this really thoughtful production. These guys thought of everything. They include who the recording engineer was, the musical advisor, the photographer. The wood engraving is by Lee Payant. The layout and drawings are by Gordon Heath. I was able to find a signed copy of this record. In a red pen, they wrote, "For Audrey's Mummy, Gordon Heath and Lee Payant." This is the most special thing. It has the address and that Abbaye is the exclusive trademark of Gordon Heath and Lee Payant. Yes, they named their record company after L'Abbaye. Another truly special thing about this album is that it includes the most beautiful program I've ever seen, a part of any album I've gotten. Gordon made the left side in English and the right side in French. I'll start off with the acknowledgments. There's a few up top for their aid with the spoken text used on this record. John Grossman for his ingenious and sensitive translations for Abbaye Records. Guest performers at L'Abbaye. To the artists and painters whose work we have shown at L'Abbaye. In July of 1949, the club Abbaye came into being. No one could have predicted that 10 years later, it would still be a part of Paris nightlife, a left bank institution, and an international point of reference for thousands of people who relaxed in its atmosphere, were haunted by the songs, and cared in a sufficiently personal way to say, when you're in Paris, you must go to the Abbaye. We have, over these 10 years, watched a part of a generation grow up, get married, have children. We have made many dear friends who may at the moment be far away, but are never lost. To those present and absent friends, this record, the Abbaye Anniversary Album, is dedicated. Gordon and Lee, July 1959. The Abbaye Anniversary Album is the second record released on L'Abbaye's own label. The songs appear on the record in the approximate order of their adoption into the repertoire. The record was recorded at Studios Stereo Mega in Paris, May 1959, at the bottom of Little Boy. What? What? Hello? Are you hungry? I started to play the guitar because I wanted to sing this spiritual. I first heard it from Roland Hayes, who collected it and was still working his unique magic with it when I heard him in Paris in 1952. This is David Bolster, writing an interim in 1950. In Paris, more than in almost any other capital, a restaurant or nightclub enjoys the full glow and glare of fashionable interest for a brief period indeed, before the restless beams swing round the horizon to illuminate some rival. That the Abbaye in Saint-Germain-des-Prés should still be crowded night after night is something of a miracle. When I went there last night, the place could not have been fuller. Not even the metro at 6 o'clock could have been more tightly crammed. And this on a Monday night, and after a run of 2 years. Just really gives you the feeling of how special L'Abbaye was. Their story should be shared and their work celebrated. This is Dan Berman writing in Realties in September 1951. The Abbaye is now in danger of becoming a Paris landmark. Every night, 100 or so persons of all ages and nationalities manage to find room inside the Abbaye, which is about as big as the living room of an emergency housing project home. Its seating capacity is 30. There's no getting away from it, Payant said. We'll be out of business the day Paris passes a fire law. This gives you a real idea of what audience conduct was expected at L'Abbaye. August 1953. There is a ritual here. When the time comes to leave, a candle is placed on every table, and every table has a right to its song. When Gordon Heath and Lee Payant have sung it, the candle is blown out. When all of them are out, it's closing time. An extraordinary atmosphere in the Abbaye, an atmosphere of poetic kindness, of warm hearts, and sometimes of nostalgic sadness as well. You applaud by snapping your fingers. Thumb against middle finger very softly. Charming, isn't it? This is Art Buchwald quoting what I wrote in 1955. The Abbaye is to post-war Paris what the Boeuf sur les Toits was to pre-war Paris, and I'm sure that in 20 years, people will remember it with the same nostalgia as they remember the pre-war era of wonderful nonsense now. Plaisir de France, August 1958. For 9 years, Gordon Heath and Lee Payant have met the challenge of being the only performers at the Abbaye. Successfully inimitable comedians and tragic narrators, the duettists devote themselves tirelessly to a Negro-American and Haitian regime French repertoire, which they change often enough to keep us coming back season after season. But be careful not to applaud. That's right, you gotta snap your fingers. Right now I'm reading Gordon Heath's memoirs, Deep Are the Roots, about his life and his time with Lee Payant. I'm going to post that album as soon as I can, and other interesting information I find about these iconic men.